Hey guys, welcome to the video. So in today's video I'm going to teach you about props versus state. So let's start. So basically in React, props and state are the main concepts, and we use props and state to manage our app. So in React, as the data passes from one directional way, that means from parent to child, data is passed from parent component to child component. So how does the data flow? Is through props. So props helps to pass the data from parent component to child component. So I'm going to show you in the code. As we can see, we have an app component. As we know, component is basically a JavaScript function. So here we can see our app is a JavaScript arrow function, ES6 arrow function, and it returns a HTML type of syntax which we will call JSX. So JSX is simply an extension where we can use JavaScript or any other manipulation of JavaScript. So basically we will create a card component and we will reuse that card component with props. So basically we in source we have a folder called components. So we'll add a component named card.js. So this card will be a component which we will reuse in our project, in our app. So basically, for creating a component, always we should start with the capital letter of like front capital, like C should always be capital, because React understands component as this way. So now when we will create, so now we are going to write it's you can see we has just wrote a snippet and we created a simple card component. And how to call it? So to call it, just call the card component and it will automatically self close tag and then it will call. So now when we will see it at the browser, we can see the card component is here. So now we have just created a first React component. So now to pass the data or to reuse the data from parent to child, because here app is parent because it is using the card. So card is the child component and app is the parent component. So we pass data from parent to child. So to pass the data as a props, so we will pass in its component, so like this. So the title of the card, will pass the title of the card, or like card title is equals to this is our card 1. So we have just passed the props, and this is the way to pass the props. So as we pass the props, now we will take the props in card. So card in function parameter, we will take the props and then we will destructure the props, because we have given the name. So we will take the title here and we will just destructure it props, and then we will use the title in the head of the title. So now we'll create a class name. So this is a card, and then we will create a div of card header. Wait a second. So after we created a card header, then we will just pass our title here. So in this title we are getting our card title. So as we can see, card 1 is our title. So now I will do a bit of CSS. So here we can do simply a style, and then we do like border 1 pixel solid black. So this is a simple border, and then we can just spew the card. So as you can see, we have just a card. Then we will create a body where we can pass our paragraph. This is the paragraph of our card. So now we don't know what the paragraph would be, so the paragraph would become from the props too, and then in app.js we'll pass the paragraph as like this is the first card. So this is the first card is the paragraph. As you can see, now here we have the dynamic. So this is the way to pass props. So if we want to pass, or if you want to reuse this card, then we can again call the card for example, and then we can pass props as like title. This is card, this is simply a card 2, and then we should pass like paragraph is equals to this is the paragraph 2, and then we can just save close the tag, and you can see the cart 2 with the with same component but different content. So basically props helps to reuse the code or component, so we are reusing the same component again and again. So the powerful content of props is not this. The powerful content is for example, in the body section we don't know what the HTML tag or what content or what many content could be added. For that we have a nice props which is known as children. So children is basically and props which will be owned by the parent. For example, we will take the children from here. So as you can see children, and then in the while calling the card component, we can do simply, and in the opening and closing tag, under the tag, how we can add anything. For example, h1, we can add h1 tag. You can see here we can add h1 tag under it, and then we can write this is the children tag. Okay, and then when we will see it, you can see it as a children tag. Then we can add anything in here, it will just become at the children. For example, this is para children. As you can see now, when we will save it, and you can see this is para children. So anything we add, it comes under the children props. So this children props. The children props, we use the children props when we don't know what exact the content or the tag would come. So there we use card. So this is the way to use props. So there are many other way of props, like you can use prop types. For example, if in React there is a prop type. So what prop types does, it prop types just handles what your props type are. For example, title, what is the outcoming source of title. So we have, for example, outcoming source of type is string, so we can provide it string. It's like an TypeScript type, so it's also important. It's a prop type, so you should know about that too. So now we have just gone through the props. So props is basically immutable. We cannot change the props. We just can change it through our children, and when we will save, or when we will do it in production, is the static value. It does not change. Once we just done this in the dev, so now it cannot be override, it cannot be changed over time. It is immutable, it is readable, because if this code is on the server, is on the live, then we cannot change, or it does not change over time. That's why props are read only. Props are not interactive. Props does not make your code interactive, or it is not changing over time. So props are simple thing, or simple way to pass the data from one place to another, or one component to another. It's just for reusability of the code, and it's to make your code just reusable. So for the data to be changed over time, we use state. So for example, state is the way to just change the data over time. For example, I will just remove the card section for now. So now we will just remove it. Now we'll look for state, and state and props are both different things. Props are immutable, state are mutable. State can be changed over time. So to create state, we will look at input field, and then we will take the state. So for example, I have an after the use of functional component, we have hooks. So hooks are the feature in React that helps to hook into the React hooks. For example, we have the basic hook, which is known as useState. So useState, we can call useState hook from React. It's a React API. So you can see in API docs too about the hooks. So useState hooks, we need to call it, and after calling it, it just returns you an array of array to array. So one is the initial state or the name of the array. For example, I will just press it like count, and then we have the update function or setter function to update the count or update the UI. So it's like mandatory to use set and then your initial value, and then is equals to initial use state, and then inside the calling function we pass initial value as parameter. So initial value is at first 0. So this is the state. It's a simple use state hook that lets you to hook under the React. So we have the initial or name of the hook count, and then this is the setter function to update the count. Because React does not update automatically, we have to re-render it to just make the value in sync with its new value. So its new value is there, and to in sync we use setter function. So now when we will use count in the div, so we are going to get 0. As you can see, we got 0. So now I am going to create a button that will use this count state, and it will be used over time, or that will change over time, and I will show you what exactly its state. So for example, if we just use button, and then we will just increment the button, and then we have the next thing that we will call as minus. So we have an additional button and we have the minus button. So when we will look at it, so now it won't work because we have not had any interaction between them. So now we will use the event handling, which is known as onClick function. So onClick is an event handler, so which tells React, so when the button is clicked, so fire the function given to it. So now we will create a callback function which will call the set count that will re-render our app. So set count, we will just say that the previous value of our count to add with the new value. For example, we have the previous value, so previous value means 0, and then we will call the function to add the previous value with 1. We just want to add our previous value with 1. And then in decrement we will also call the onClick function, and in the onClick function we will just put the set count to previous value, and then just decrease the previous value by 1. And after that we can see when we will add, the data is changing over time, and then we will create a next button which will reset our button. So here this is the reset button, and in the reset button we will make an onClick function, and that will say our set count to become 0. So now when we will reset it, it is 0. When we will add it, it is changing over time, and this value, this is called state. In React, state means the changing of data over time is known as state. So basically, so this is the use of state. We use the use state hook that help us to hook into the React, and this is the simple example of React. As you can see, this is the simplest form, but the way we are using is of JavaScript. We are just using the use state hook of React, else we are using JavaScript. So that's why the knowledge of JavaScript is very important if you want to learn React, because React is nothing. React is just a library that uses some of its APIs and some of its render method to create an app. So basically, state means that changes over time, and state handles inside a component. It is not passed outside, it is just handled inside the component. So this is the way to use React.js. If you have any problem, you can comment and like, subscribe. So thank you for watching.